Hi, this is Anita from Real Estate Crunch. Today we're going to talk a little bit about condemned properties and why this is a complex issue in the United States. First of all, we need to understand what is considered a condemned property. A condemned house or property is deemed uninhabitable, meaning it's unsafe for anyone to live in according to government standards. The status varies widely across different regions with specific criteria by local regulations. So like most things we've talked about in real estate here, real estate is very much about local regulations and exactly, what your county or your city or your state may have in their books or on their laws. That's one reason why real estate is quite complicated, and another reason why real estate agents only are certified for a certain state to be able to sell property, because real estate is very much a industry which is state by state or county by county to be able to understand all the laws that are on the books. So, for example, the criteria could be things like, here are some of the basic criteria for condemnation. Access to clean water, that, homes for people to live in should be safe, should have reliable and safe water supply. Electricity, they must have a functional electricity system. Working sewage, proper sanitation. Structural soundness, it must be sound and safe to occupy. Must have, be free of excessive, pests or hazardous mold. If your house has a lot of mold, that could be a reason for it to be condemned. There might be some other regulations in some other states. For example, if you live in a very cold state, you need to ensure that you have a heating system that works. If you don't have a heating system that works, the house could be deemed inhabitable, and it could mean that essentially you can no longer live there. Also, if you live in a place that's extremely hot, especially with some of the heat going on in some parts of the United States, you need to make sure you have the proper air condition or air conditioned facilities are working so that you do not end up with somebody dying because of heat exposure. So these are all things that can make a difference as to whether or not a house or property can be considered condemned. Basically, it has to do with the public safety and how livable the house is. One of the things that you need to do if you get a notice of, let's say somebody puts a notice on your door and say your house is going to be condemned, you should immediately talk with a real estate attorney, and not just any real estate attorney, but a real estate attorney that understands this part of the law. So you can really understand what your laws are, the requirements are, and what you need to do. Mostly, it won't happen just all at once. Normally an inspector will come in. And the inspector will come and look at your house and will say, like, look, your heating's not working, and you have mold, infestations, or you have, pest control issues, or you have water that's unsafe. You need to fix these things. So then they will give you a time to say you need to repair them, and then if you repair them, they'll come back, they'll re-inspect it. Your house will not be condemned. If they re-inspect it again and they return the repairs have not been completed, then they may give you a notice of your house being condemned. Your house just won't be condemned just for no reason at all. If they're going to condemn it especially for these specific reasons that I talked about before, which has to do with clean water, electricity, working sewage, structural soundness, and hygiene, then they will not condemn the house. Right away, they will give you some time to be able to get everything in order. If a house has not been lived in for a long period of time, this may mean that they will, condemn the house. If they see that the house on the outside is falling apart, the siding's coming off, or there's, a hole through the house or other things like that, they may go in and also condemn the property. In the United States, this is quite a complex law again because it has to do with state, local, and other regulations. It could also do, too, if your neighbors start complaining that they feel like your house needs to be condemned. There could be lots of different things that could take place when it comes for property to be condemned in the United States. I've written a blog post entitled "The Complex Issue of Condemned Property in the United States." We will put a link below in the description if you'd like to be able to read more about that and be able to learn more about some of the things that have to do with this and why, what it means exactly for the entire condemnation process, how it works, and, I'd like to be able to answer some other questions about what it means if your property is going to be condemned or is condemned. Thank you so much for listening. We sure do appreciate you, our listeners. We know without you, this would not be possible. We're going to this month talk a little bit about the condemnation of properties, go into a little bit more in some future podcasts. So if you're interested, continue listening, and we will talk some more about this. Thank you so much.